What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's your boy Rio Robinson back with the latest and greatest on the Rambling with Rio YouTube channel, where we ramble about the Washington Commanders. First day in pads, August 1st, out in Ashburn. Had to get my guy on, friend of the show, friend in real life, Commanders insider and reporter for ABC News, my guy Lake Lewis. How we doing today, brother?
Good, man. I'm good. First day in full pads, and guys were getting after it. A couple tempers were flaring out here. But yeah, man, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing good myself, man. The channel's going up. We both been on our workout journey. I see you slimmed up. My man Lake came back to the DMV, slimmed down and booed up. We love to see it, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, man. You know, she's been the motivation, man, for real. You know, her being an ex cheerleader on top of that. So got me out there every morning working out, and I feel good, man. You know, get a lot of compliments. And today Logan Polson came up to me and said, Lake, man, you look great. So just, you know, when you're working out with people, you don't see the weight loss. But then when others see you haven't seen you in a while, it's always a good thing right there.
Always a great feeling to get those affirmations for other people. But yeah, like you said, first day in shoulder pads out there in Ashburn. You've been out there since camp started. I saw you out there a couple times last week. The heat isn't as scorching this week. How was practice today?
Practice was great. I mean, the weather is beautiful out here. I mean, if I can bottle this day up and keep it for the rest of camp, I would. I mean, it's that pleasant.
For sure.
And today, you know, guys were getting after it in the pads and didn't have to worry about the heat at all. They could just, you know, hone in on their craft. And again, you know, you saw some heated battles at times, some one-on-one drills where guys were pushing and shoving. And, you know, I think they were just happy to finally be able to go full throttle today.
Oh, I love that, man. I love because the defense has had a little bit of an advantage in the days where they're not in pads, but now that they're fully padded up, the offensive line can engage and initiate contact with these guys, and we're looking to see that. But the offensive line, is it going to be as big of an issue as fans think? How did they look in first day with full contact against this vaunted defensive line we got here?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rio. I mean, they started off really bad, and it was almost as if you would think that they wouldn't be able to get any work in because the starting defensive line was after it. But they steadied the ship as the day went on, and there was a lot of first-team offensive line against second-team defensive line, which kind of helped them kind of, you know, get a lather going, you know, get back in, you know, some kind of routine. And then they carried that forward against the first team, you know, where I wouldn't say that they got the better of the first-team defense because they didn't. But they looked much better. So again, you know, think about it. If you can practice against a defensive front that's going to be clearly one of the top units in all of football, you know, you can't help but get better from that. So that's what they have to keep doing.
Hell yeah, I've seen names like Mason Brooks, the undrafted lineman out of Ole Miss, making headlines today, Nick Gates, and I see those names, and like you said, the defensive line is dominant. So that is the best determiner to what Sam Howell's going to be, because he gets to see an elite defense in practice every day. If iron sharpens iron, our quarterback is going to be ready when it comes to the regular season. I seen someone say that the media is being a little too soft on Howell and they're not trying to tell us the truth. What do you say about Sam Howell's performance in the first 6 days? Because he doesn't look bad to me from the two practices that I've seen, and we've seen a lot of bad quarterbacks come through here in the summertime. What does Sam look like through 6 days of practice?
And listen, if I had to give him a grade, you know, 1 being horrible, 10 being great, I'd give him a 7 right now. And that's all you need. You don't need him to be a 10. You need him to be, you know, above average. And I think if you can get above average quarterback play for this team, they're going to be a dangerous football team because they've got the skill sets everywhere. Wide out, running back, tight ends look pretty good. And then, of course, we know about the defense. So I think for him, he's shown – I don't even want to use the word flashes because he's been consistent. I mean, there's been a couple bad passes here or there. I mean, he threw a pick today that was a forced ball. But for the most part, he's looked really good. He's comfortable in the pocket. When he has a pocket, he's comfortable. But more importantly, you know, the out routes that he throws, the deep ball, it's all there. And those are throws, frankly, that Taylor Heinicke couldn't make. Those are throws that Carson Wentz sometimes didn't trust his own arm strength. So you see a guy like this now who's out there, he's confident, he's poised. And he told us a couple of days ago in the media room, he told us that the terminology and a lot of the things that they've brought over from Kansas City with Eric Bieniemy. He said the concepts, RPO, things like that. He said it's the same exact stuff he ran at North Carolina. So that's why he's comfortable. He said he doesn't really have to think about the play, he knows the playbook. He said now he can help guys get into position if they don't know where to go. So to hear a young quarterback say stuff like that, Reed, that's big, man. That goes to show that he can just play football, not have to so much outthink himself with plays and personnel groupings and things like that.
Yeah, he seems up to the challenge. I watched the interview he did with Fletcher, Smoot, and Santana yesterday. He seems like a mature guy. He seems like he speaks the language of the offense. That guy, EB, he puts he lets his presence felt every single practice. I see them doing shovel passes. I see him yelling at guys to get the huddle straightened up. I think the EB Sam relationship is going to be the biggest determining factor of whether this team is good or not this year. You've seen him in the spring. You now see him in the summer. What has the EB effect been like?
Man, it's huge. I mean, he's getting guys the ball in open space. And, I try not to be critical of any professional, of any professional endeavor, but Scott Turner to me was bad as an offensive coordinator. He was very predictable. And I think Eric Bieniemy, everybody's getting the ball. It's not just the obvious guys like Terry McLaurin, who's still shining, of course. Today it was Jahan Dotson Day, if you ask me. And that was something I was looking for because over the first couple of practices, Sam wasn't really looking for Jahan, or at least it was more like he was force-feeding Terry and the tight ends. Today, Jahan was out here eating. I mean, he looked really good. And that's always a good sign. Curtis Samuel had a couple balls. So, I mean, you see these things developing, and it's all just starting to make sense. So I think Eric Bieniemy may have called more plays for certain guys today, to get them work. But for the most part, yeah, you can see this offense is doing some dynamic things, some modern things. They look like a modern pro offense, which they've been devoid of for a long time. I mean, you probably have to go back to Jay Gruden, of course, but he didn't like to run the football. So with Eric Bieniemy, it's a mixture of everything. Look, man, Brian Robinson's catching the ball out the backfield.
I know he looks good too, man.
Yeah, he looks like a natural pass catching back who's with that size. Antonio Gibson made plays today, so Chris Rodriguez. I mean, they're spreading the ball around, and you can't help but be excited about it. And for me, I just take away from this first day in pass, the offensive line really started to play better the second half of practice, to the point where it's not a story now how bad they looked at the beginning of practice.
That is music to my ears because a lot of us, we're very concerned because you can easily stump the development of a young quarterback if the offensive line is putting him in precarious situations on a regular basis. But we know the big three of the wide receiver room, but Dyami Brown coming into a huge year 3, he's been making his presence felt the first couple days of practice. He had a one-hander today over Forbes. He's made some big catches in the last week. How's Dyami Brown looking in a big camp for him?
Man, I mean, he's entrenched as a number 4 receiver. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he might even get some reps off some other guys. That's how good he's looking. And I like the way EB's using him. He's not just having him on go routes, 9 routes. I mean, he's all over the field. He's got him in underneath. He's got him on the edges. I mean, he's running every route tree you can possibly run with Dyami Brown. And it's paying off. And the other thing that I think by doing it that way, we all knew that he had kind of top end speed to track a ball down. We saw that obviously last year when he had 2 touchdowns in one game. But to see him underneath, he looks a lot shiftier and a lot quicker than I thought he was actually. And I think that that's an added bonus to this offense. So when they line up all 4 of those guys at one time, I mean, they probably wouldn't even go to them. It would probably go to, Robinson or Gibson out the backfield or a tight end. But, I mean, I'm just telling you, man, they look like an offense that won't be so predictable that you won't know what's coming at you.
Oh, man, that gets me so juiced up, gets me ready to run through a wall. I think EB has his options that he can pick and choose from here. But speaking of the defense, how's the rookie class headlined by first rounder Emmanuel Forbes and second rounder Quan Martin? How are the rookies looking out there so far?
And they look great. They really do. They absolutely look like they belong. They look like starters. That's how good Forbes, when he gets beat, it's more of a hell of a catch from the receiver, as opposed to him breaking down in coverage. He runs literally hip to hip with his guys. Every guy he covers, it's hip to hip. You can, we've seen corners drafted. We've seen guys come as free agents, and you would go home after practice not feeling like you witnessed, Jesus walking on water. We didn't see any of that.
Facts.
Let me tell you, man, this kid looks really impressive. I mean, really impressive. And if you can, obviously get some weight on him, because he is very slight,
very much.
But he's been that way his whole life, and he's proven commodity from coming out of college, at Mississippi State. I mean, this guy was a frontline SEC football player. So you're seeing it translate on the field. I mean, he's around the football every time the ball comes his way. It's either knocked down or a heck of a catch from a receiver, or it's intercepted. I mean, it's one of the three, and that's what you want from your corners. He's not necessarily, I would say, a gambler. He's just a guy that knows how to track a football. He's almost like a receiver playing corner, and that's what you want. So you look at Martin, the same thing, but he's got some toughness to him that I wasn't expecting. He's a guy that's not going to get bullied underneath, man, and I think he can cover tight ends as well. I mean, he's just a bull, and he's also a guy that knows how to track that football. So with what they have going in the front, their front seven, and then you back that up, and they've been running a lot of 5-1-5 too. 5 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker, 5 guys. I'm just excited about what this unit can do.
Hell yeah, man. It's time for them to dominate all the capital they've put into that side of the ball over the years. So to conclude, so I can get you out of there, because as you can see, Lake still got boots on the ground in Ashburn. He has to go fulfill his media duties. Based on what you've seen in the spring, what you've seen in the summer so far, we're in year 4 of Ron and year 1 of the Hog, the Harrison ownership group. What's a fair record expectation for fans of the Washington Commanders in 2023?
Listen, I've been singing 10 wins all off season, and I know people are like, Sam Howell's a new quarterback, doesn't have experience. What he did against the Cowboys' first team defense wasn't a fluke, that was with an offensive coordinator. And now you have a real deal coordinator who's hungry to prove that he belongs as a coach, which he probably should have been a long time ago. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But you have guys that want to prove some things here. Sam Howell wants to prove that he is a starting NFL quarterback, and that by him dropping to the 5th round, he wants to prove 31 other teams that, you messed up, So I like what I see with this group. I think that defense is going to be so special that they'll win 2-3 games by themselves alone. And then, of course, adequate offensive play calling. There's 4 games that they squandered last year because of bad play calling, bad coaching, and bad quarterback play, to be honest with you. So now if you fix that, you give yourself 4 more? No, probably not, because the schedule's tougher. So I say half of that gets you 10 wins, because they won 8 last year. So I'm okay with that.
Couldn't agree more myself. Y'all heard it from the man, Lake Lewis Jr. Let folks know where they can find you and what else you got cooked up this year with Sports Journey and the After Practice podcast.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that plug. You can find me on social media, on Twitter at Lake Lewis, and then on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads at Lake Lewis Jr. And then, of course, you can go to Sports Journey, sportsjourney.com. We've got a new page being revamped. It'll be up next week. So you see all the latest things from camp and from practice. And me, on a personal note, I got something big to announce too, career-wise. So probably be next week, but it's huge. So I'm excited about it.
Okay, huge news coming from Lake Lewis Jr. Y'all heard the guy. Until next time, you know how we do on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe. And hail to the Washington Commanders. Rio, out.